Good day and welcome back to another DB Legends video. In this video we're going to take a look at the Planet Namek Saga team and how it does in the new meta. So I've built a Planet Namek Saga team. Could definitely improve this team. I'm busy working the Zenkai for the purple first form Frieza. And he would replace the free-to-play Namek Goku. That would give me another Zenkai boost. It would give me like another good boost overall. Then of course, I could be using the Blue Legends Limited Goku, although I'm not the biggest fan of using him. But a nice thing about the Planet Namek Saga, so with this change to how PvP works, and whether it's a permanent change or a temporary change or an on and off change, we don't know. Obviously they'll base it on reaction, but with the new manner in which Pokemon I say Pokemon with the new manner in which players, thank you, sorry, I've been playing Pokemon recently, with the new manner in which players have to consider building almost two teams or one more team than they usually would. Having a roster like this, I find, is very helpful for just a lot of the game in general. With how things used to work, you would often see 3-on-3 lineups. So 3 boosting 3. So you'd have like 3 major units, maybe a 4th variable unit, and then you would have 3 boosts, and generally speaking it would be the meta units for that category, and then that was it. Now what we're finding is that you're seeing a lot of more flexible, diverse teams, less openly directly boosted units, and more units that are pretty good overall. And I think that's a sign that obviously people are adjusting their teams to better suit this kind of manner in which you have to, play one game, play another game, potentially play a third match. And you need that variation in your teams, because you need to be able to make one team, you need to be able to make a second team, and then you need to be able to make a third team that features one unit from each of the previous ones. So your teams have to be flexible. Now, what I've found is that players tend to go one of two ways. So most players tend to go with like a 4-2 split, or I should say some players tend to go with like a 4-2 split. So that is, they have their 3 major units as they had before. They have a 4th unit that they'll throw in when they have to switch into the 3rd round if possible. And then, of course, they basically have 2 units that are just boost units that are just fodder. That's a build I've seen kind of floating around. Next is a 3-3 split, which is kind of what I'm running here with the Namek Saga. So that's obviously something that's super duper important. But yeah, I think for me, I find the 3-3 split's probably the most interesting. Whether it's the most efficient, I don't think so. I think 4-2 is definitely more efficient. But I think the 3-3 split is potentially pretty good, at least from my kind of standpoint. So yeah, I like 3-3. I think it's better, and the Planet Namek Saga team, I think, is one of those ones that's really cool when you look at the 3-3 split. So you've got some really cool, interesting units. Obviously the Ginyu Force being a ready-made team of 3 on their own is pretty cool. And then you could build into like a Frieza Force kind of team. So you've got Final Form Frieza, the yellow one, who's okay. He's okay. I'm not going to say he's insane, but he's okay. He's still holding his own as a yellow. Definitely can do some good damage still. Then you've got the purple Legends Image Frieza. Not too certain how I feel about that. I don't have him Zenkai'd, so I can't really say anything about his Zenkai form, but definitely you have to at least Zenkai him before you can consider using him, which sometimes is obviously a thing or is a hindrance, but I think most times players will kind of deal with that to a larger extent. But yeah, So the one thing I do like about the Planet Namek team, or the Frieza Saga team, is that they have this ready-made Ginyu Force team. Now, I did a video on the Ginyu Force team quite recently, and they still held their own pretty well. Now, the Frieza Force team can still probably do some good damage. Like I said, I would probably use First Form Frieza's. Zenkai, his Legends Limited Zenkai is going to be pretty helpful. I would say you can probably also still use Goku in Final Form Frieza. So the purple Goku Final Form Frieza, you could probably use them as a lead over the green Goku, but then you might have too many purples. There's definitely a heavy yellow feel to this team right now, which I want to remove, which is why I want to remove Namek Saga Goku and replace him with the purple Frieza, because you'll get that kind of double boost, which I think is very good, which will allow for better improvement from Ginyu as well, because you get the Frieza Force tag boost from a Zenkai, and so yeah, pretty good stuff, I would say. Then beyond that, it's a bit more difficult, because you're now looking for a final lead option. Because it's leader, it doesn't have to be a Frieza Force unit, that's for sure. But you do need to now be careful with leaders, because remember, your leader's bonus will only apply to the team that he's chosen in. So, if you're going to run the leader, you need to be careful of where you're using him and who that boost is going to apply to. Because that boost is not going to apply to, say, for example, the second batch of units that you pick. Whether they change that in future, I'm not too certain. But I think it is something that's important to when you're drafting your characters. Because he will cover himself, but realistically, if you're running a guy that's giving a range boost, probably going to want to consider using him alongside range boost characters. But yeah, that's just one of those things. So yeah, it's definitely interesting, I would say, this whole new meta and the shift and how it's kind of affecting playstyles and team building, and yeah, it's obviously changing a lot. I think for me as a player, I find myself, I've enjoyed some matches a lot, and then I've really not enjoyed others, and it's not so much because of the players or losing or anything like that. It's because of the matches that are bad are really bad, like twice over. And I know you can withdraw, but it just doesn't feel great. Like killing it after one round, it just doesn't feel great. When you're playing someone that's lagging or, just like got a bad connection, those are intensely miserable matches. Like, those are just horrendous experiences across the board. And every one match I have like that has kind of ruined, I don't want to say ruined, but it leaves a bad taste in your mouth for like the next 2 or 3. I will say there are definitely bigger slogs though. So playing like 2-3 games in a row, especially for someone like myself, I know for some people, playing 2-3 games in a row isn't an issue, or never was. But to be playing DB Legends, I think the one round, like this video here, this is a 15-minute video. Obviously it suits the topic I'm talking about, but it's a long grind. So I definitely feel like there's definitely a more draining aspect to playing like this. But aside from that, that's obviously more about the game mode. The team, I think, is in a decent place. I do feel like, Frieza Saga still probably needs more. You only really have like these units, and then what? You have the Legends Limited Blue Goku. So you've got like Legends Limited Blue Goku, and that's kind of it. Like, that's everything you have in regards to like top meta units for this category. I think the 2 Ultras, like the 2 Ultra free-to-play Ultras could definitely get a Zenkai if they feel like they need a Zenkai. Well, they definitely do need a Zenkai, but to me it feels like you need a Zenkai. just to kind of get things off the ground for them. And it would be a good boost to this team, honestly speaking. Like, it would be really good and help the team out a lot, which I think is something important. But yeah, overall, I will say, much like the Ginyu Force, the Frieza Saga, or Namek Saga, because that's what I call it, like, for me, is an okay team. Because in this current meta, it's probably one of the few teams that has a really good boost, whilst also being just some really good units. The Sparking Ginyu Force units really help out. The Legends Limited characters are all in a decent place. I can't speak about the purple First Form Frieza, but you know, that blue Legends Limited Goku, who we're not using, but who's pretty good. And then you've got yellow Legends Limited Frieza, who's okay with the Zenkai. So all of them seem to be in a decent place. I think if you threw in purple Legends Limited Frieza, you wouldn't be upset. So I think like you're in a decent position when it comes to these units. And I just think, like, for me overall, obviously the consideration with this meta is being able to have flexible units. I will say the Ginyu Force do have a slight drop-off if you are not using a full team of Ginyu Force. So if you're constantly using the full Ginyu Force selection, you are going to be a little bit predictable. But you can get away with 2 of them. So you don't need to use like a whole triple roster of Ginyu Force units, but if you use 3 of them, you'll probably find that you're in a pretty decent position. Like, you'll probably find that you're going to be, you know, quite solid overall. So yeah, I would definitely say that that's maybe the one, I don't want to say issue, but that's the one consideration I will say when you are using this team, is you can showcase yourself to be a little bit predictable when it comes down to team selection. But overall, a fun team, a good team. Ginyu Force is obviously great. Frieza does decent damage. Kaioken Goku, the green one, still surprisingly does immense damage. I say surprisingly, but he does pretty good damage. But yeah, honestly speaking, a pretty fun time overall. Interesting in this new meta. We'll definitely have to assess how far they can go, or how far we can take it. But I think, you know, like I said, I definitely feel like in this current meta, in this change of rule set, teams like this Frieza Force, or Frieza Saga team, I should say, or Planet Namek Saga team, do benefit a lot. Having a large array of flexible, good Sparkings and Legends Limiteds in your team that can boost you, help you, make you function, and can hold their own without being able to really know your opponent's selection or anticipate every selection of your opponent, is good, I feel, at least from my side. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Honestly speaking, it was a very interesting time using this team. I think I did enjoy it a lot. Like, I do enjoy using these teams. I really like the Frieza Saga team. I just like the Ginyu Force. I like everyone involved. I think they're really good. I think they're just a lot of fun as well. They're not necessarily the best team that I've had, but they are one that's quite a bit of fun in terms of like performance and just their kits and everything that they bring together. And I think it is a really enjoyable time, at least for me. But yeah, I will say I do feel a little bit like the new meta is going to have an impact on how people perceive or build teams. I think it has to. I think the way it changes, the way you now have to consider using units that would have been boost, has to have an impact. And I think this is one of the teams that could benefit. But yeah,